Excellent. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Infinity webinar on how to build a budget. I'm Simon Kirby from Infinity, and I'm joined by my colleague, Guilherme. Guilherme, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Guilherme, or you can call me Gilly because I know that my name is not the easiest thing to pronounce. Um, Sam and I, we've been working with it for Infinity for what, 2.5 years,
Yeah.
around that. And well, that's about me. Back to you, I think.
Fantastic, thank you. For those of you that don't know us, I'm based in the UK. Guy is actually Brazilian, but based in Sydney, Australia. And yeah, we've been working together, as Guy said, for like 2.5 years and doing some fantastic things with our clients. And so the point of this webinar today is to literally take you through step by step how you can use Qlik Cloud and Qlik Sense on premise to build a budget, how you can do that with the data that you have in your Qlik systems already, and how you can apply Infinity to allow you to enter the data, amend that data, and build out a budget and then a forecast, and how you can do those kinds of comparisons. Before we dive into this fantastic demo that Guy has built, I'm just going to share a little bit about Infinity, who we are, and so on. So bear with me a moment. I'll share my screen. So who are we? So we're a specialist software company. We're based in Europe. And we've been working with Qlik for more than 15 years. In fact, I think this is probably closer to 20 now. We are a spin-off. We have a Qlik master reseller in Europe, and we're a technology spin-off from that company. And we recently hit our 310 customer mark, which is fantastic. We've doubled the business. Our customer growth has been phenomenal in a very short space of time. And we're really fortunate to have a global customer and partner network with customers from all the way from Canada down to the bottom of South America, all across Europe, and we're gears in APAC as well. All right, so we've got a lot of people and we've got some fantastic partner network. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think what we'll do, Guy, is we'll just dive straight into this, if that's all right. We can go through exactly what we're going to do, just to set the scene a little bit. So what we're going to do is, this is really aimed at people that might be building a budget at the moment on a spreadsheet, or maybe they have some kind of legacy budgeting system. A lot of our customers come to us and say, look, we've got our finance numbers in Qlik already, and it's a very logical, natural step to be able to then build a budget because our numbers are already in Qlik. Can we do that? Can we use those numbers as like a baseline for the coming year? Can we then change those numbers and save them? It would be great to do that. Now, naturally, within Qlik Sense and Qlik Cloud, you can't enter data and save it and persist that data anywhere. That is the point of Infinity. At its heart, Infinity is what's known as a write-back tool. It's a little bit misleading because it's not really writing back to a source system. We write data into a data store, like a database or a file. But we can do that. We can use that capability to build some fantastic financial budgeting and financial planning solutions. And in recent months and this year, we've added a lot of capability specifically in this space. Now, on this particular demo, we're not going to show the planning pivot table that we've recently created. We're going to save that for another webinar that we'll do very soon. But this one will concentrate on how to build a simple budget step by step. And then what we'll do is we'll look to build on that with future webinars going forward. Cool. So let me stop talking. And Guy, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand over to you and you can take us through the demo. And I'll jump in and ask questions as we go through. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure, perfect.
Fantastic.
So
Over
let
to
me
you.
share my screen. Just a heads up, this is a very simple demo. Keep in mind that we can build a lot of different things. But to start with something that is more basic and more common, we have here a Qlik app. So very simple. There's one table behind it. As you can see, I have here dimensions, 2 dimensions, actually country. So I can select the countries from here. The filters will be applied. Products, same thing. The charts will be filtered and just like any other Qlik application, right? And I have columns with months. So let's imagine that we have a sales database with all the sales from 2025, imagining that we already closed 2025 to December. And now we want to start to create a budget. So our first step is to use Infinity and start to create some editable columns on top of this. And how Infinity works is that, as Simon said, it works in both cloud or on-premise. And we need a data storage, a table to start saving this data. Now I'm using Qlik Cloud. And the first step I'm going to show you is how I will create a table. So let me just go to the next sheet here where I have the same table. I have here a country, product, and multiple measures. In this case, I created them using set analysis, but it's really up to you as a Qlik developer, just to show you the object. So country, product, and all the measures that we have here, sum of January, sum of February, nothing special. Now, what I will do, I will first convert this object here into Infinity object. So you will see that it's possible to inherit everything. And after that, I will create one from scratch. So I'll convert this into Infinity object, and you'll see this error. This is because our object is ready to receive editable fields. So we need a table to point to and start saving data. To do that, I'll go to our Infinity platform, and I'll do here a webinar. I'll create a webinar table.
And Guy, just
The
to
name
kind
is
of
just for the
explain what you're doing here, just for the audience benefit. So what we have, I think, is the forms in the front end, right? But then behind it, we have to create a data storage where we're going to save that data. And what you're doing now is defining that data storage. Is that correct?
That's right. We could choose SQL data sources, as we can see here. But in this example, we'll go the easy way or the fastest way, which is using our own Infinity service. So the data will be hosted here in our server. And we can just click a button and create a table.
Excellent.
So now it's creating the table for me, and I can refer to this table with a specific ID. Here it is. Now I can copy this ID, which is the form instance that we see here for this specific table, and I can paste in my form configuration. We don't have to go too technical, but this is part of the process so you can understand step by step what's possible. As you can see, the measures and the dimensions were inherited from the previous object. From here, I can start to add editable fields if I wanted. So just to show you one example, if I go to the very right, I can add here a text object. If I wanted simply like a comment field, right? And I could start to comment about the previous results. But that's not our goal for this demo. The goal is to create. You want to say something?
Just an interesting point here, right? So I think this is an important thing to mention. Lots of people that begin using Infinity, this is a very natural first thing to do, because you have the numbers, you can see the numbers, but sometimes people want to explain inside Qlik why something has changed, why it's gone up, or maybe why it's gone down, and why it's different from 1 year to the next or 1 month to the next. And the ability to write a text comment in here is a very obvious first thing to begin with. Yeah, even if you do nothing else, we haven't even begun to build the budget yet. But what we're doing is we're saying we have some numbers in here and we can explain something. And that's a very nice thing to do. And as you just saw, it's very easy to create that link between the form and a backend storage. It's really quick. You just have that ID that links that backend and the front end together, right?
That's right. And then when I enter something in here, since my ID is linked to my tenant, it will automatically flow from here to the data storage that we have here in this table.
Okay? I see. Yeah. Understood. That's good.
Right. So now let me just go back and I will first delete this object. Okay. And we'll start one from scratch. So I'll go back here to the custom objects part, forms general. We have more objects, by the way, but the one that's used the most is the forms general because we can enter the multiple columns like this. So our dimension here, actually, first, let me put back the form instance ID here in the form configuration part. And now I can enter first my country column. Here it is. And the second is the product, just like what we had before. But in this case, I want product to be a key field too. We don't have to go into the details right now, but it's something that will save the product detail in the database together with the country. So these two will be the key field. And now I can go to form configuration and add my editable fields. As we said, we want to start a budget for 2026. So I will enter here a number field. I could be adding a checkbox, switch, date. We have multiple types of field. They do different things. Just for a demonstration, if I enter a date field, as you can see, it has a different type. So it's a calendar. I can choose it from here. It will save that specific date. And the others will do different things. So one for each kind of scenario. We always hear from the customers what they need, what they want, and we put that on the roadmap. So this is the result of years of interactions with customers.
Yeah, I think there are 18 fields. I counted them the other day, there are 18 fields. And I think the newest one we've added recently is the signature, right? We don't need to show that now, but it does let you physically sign in a box and capture that and link that signature to a set of criteria to explain what you're signing against. It's quite a nice way of doing a workflow and approval process, but that's for another time, right? So we'll cover that on another day.
Cool. So going back here, I will first enter a number field, which will be January. So the column name is what will be saved in the database. So in this case, the first January, the label is for the end user. So I could write Jan or January, whatever. In this case, I'll just leave it as Jan. We have multiple options here to customize the style of the object. So the type or format of the number, if we want that with decimals or not. Some alignment, the width in pixels. We can hide this column if we want or not. Change the background color and other customizations, and even validate if this field should respect certain rule. So it should be higher than X, or it should be filled or not, mandatory. So we have this option here. We can also create auto-calculated fields. I'm going to show you that in the next page, but it's basically a calculator based on multiple fields or measures. And also the edit mode, which is very important. We can lock the fields if we want with certain rules. Now going back here to the top, I have first January. Now I will create the second one. I can create again using that button or just duplicate and change here from January 1st, to Feb. I will create 3 fields, okay? And next, I will show you a very advanced way to populate everything, because we also have that. We have here a feature that is for advanced users, but basically this object here has a structure behind it, and we can change that structure with code. I have the code here. It's a JSON file that will populate all these columns with the fields that I want. So all I'll do is to come here. I'll go to import fields. And in my documents, I will find the file and hit OK. Now this will create all the other fields that I wanted until December. And the structure is ready, okay? One important thing that many customers wanted and we were able to do is to enable copy and paste from Excel. So I have an Excel file here. If I copy, let's say, just these last rows or this last interval that I have and go back here and paste in this first part, you'll see that it will paste exactly that interval. If I have a table that I want to copy and paste like the entire thing, I can also do that, which is our case here, like this.
So this is nice, Guy. So this is like a way of populating the data. And a lot of people, as we mentioned earlier, they perform budgets in a spreadsheet. So they may have budgets from last year already. And what you're saying is if you create something in Infinity Forms that mirrors that spreadsheet and has the same columns and structure, then it's very easy to just copy and paste from your previous spreadsheet into here. That's one way, I guess, of pre-filling the data with last year's numbers, correct?
That's right. And this is one way, as you said. We'll show later how to do it in a more elegant way with more functionalities.
Yeah.
But this is a simple way. I will paste just some values here so we can see on the next sheet that the values are there. So I'll paste here some values in this part, and we'll go to the next sheet to see more actions, okay?
Excellent. I think it's worth mentioning just one thing. When you were hitting the edit sheet mode and then you're working with the properties of the Infinity form, it looks exactly like any other Qlik object, right? For any Qlik developer, they'll be familiar with this property panel on the side, the layout. Everything in here looks and feels very comfortable and similar to what people are used to using. I think we like to use the term Qlik native, so lots of the things in here work almost exactly the same as Qlik, which is what we've tried hard to do, to give you a very natural experience and make it feel as close to Qlik as possible, you know.
And one thing that is very important is that we can also create some actions, custom actions that will do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example very quickly, okay? Here we have an action section, and I can add a sequence. When we add an action, we need to trigger this action by either clicking a button or adding a row, doing something, and Infinity Forms will execute that. So I'll add here a new action. Right now, the activation type is a toolbar button, which means that I need to click on the button to activate the sequence. And in label, I can add anything. So I could enter here, for example, new button, and this label would be displayed here on the top. Now, this button will do something. I will define that, what will really happen here in configure actions. I have a list of things that I can choose, like creating an alert, which is very simple, basically a pop-up with a message like, hi, this is the Infinity webinar. Now, when I go back here and click on this button, that action is activated and I can see the message right here in front of me. So the end users would see the same. It could take me to a different sheet. It could open a page, change the value of a variable, add new rows, multiple things. And even I will go back here to this other page and I'll make this chart here a master item. Okay. I can display a pop-up with visualizations, charts like this. So going back here, going to this button, I will configure the action to first show me the alert, and the second action will be the master item. So I have the master visualization. Just to quickly go through the others, we have moving selection, select values, go to sheet, go to story, reload the app, REST calls, many advanced options. But going simple, let's go to master visualization. This will show me the list of master items that I have in the app. In our case, I just created this one. I can change the size of the visualization if I want. And here is a preview. I want to make it a bit more, like increase the width, like this. And if I want the users to click the button, first see instruction, for example, and next see a chart, I can do that.
So Guy, for example, you could, if someone's working, let's say you're creating this budget, you need to send it out to different people to populate this form, which is one of the nice things about doing this, because it will all be centralized rather than copying, pasting lots of spreadsheets, right? So you can do this, and then you can give people an instruction set that says click here for instructions, and it will give them guidance as to what to do. And maybe you could even give them another button that will show them previous year's numbers if they want to refer to something or anything like that, right? And I also think if I'm not mistaken, you could click this button and it would trigger other Qlik capabilities, like a workflow in the Qlik Automate, or maybe even take data and feed it into a machine learning model, right?
You're right. Yeah, we have here the QAA option. So whatever you have in automation, you can trigger from here.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, yeah, excellent. So sorry, I'm interrupting you. Carry on.
No, please go ahead if you have more things to add. So going to the next sheet, I have here basically the same thing, but you'll see that this one is blank. And the reason is because I was referring in this object to a different table, to a different data storage. So you'll see that now if I go back here, copy this instance and populate it with the correct value in the form configuration, we'll see the same value that we had before.
Oh, so it's pulling through the data that we saved in the storage, and now you're pointing this form at that new storage.
Yes, that's right.
Got it. That's why we're seeing the values that are in the storage. I see. Yeah. Nice.
And here, what we will show is that we can add a total value that will automatically calculate the total for these fields, and also an approval field. How can we do that? It's very simple. I will add here a new column in our editable part. So form configuration, we can scroll down, and I'll add here another number field, but the name will be total. It could be anything, but in this case, I'll just make it like this, total. There we go. And as I mentioned before, we have here in field options this auto calculate. This allows us to refer to other fields in this object or in the data model, and basically play with them, do calculations, multiplications, whatever we want. There's a specific way to refer to these fields, and we can find the reference for each one of them in column order. So let's say that first, I just want to display January. I can come here to column order, scroll down, and I'll explain in a second why I have the fields duplicated. Here I have the reference, which is row.January, but in a sort of variable. Okay, this is what we call special variables. It's also in our documentation, but I can copy this formula reference and scrolling down here, paste this formula. Okay, now going back to the column, the total column, you can see that I'm referring to this column here. So whatever I type in here will be displayed in this total column. Now, the nice thing is that I can do operations, calculations, whatever I want. I can go back. I'll go back here to my total column. And to make it easier, I will change the column order. So my personal trick is when I have multiple columns, I just zoom out and I bring this from the bottom, and I do that with Qlik all the time because Qlik also has this part for sorting, for multiple things like that. So going back here, now the total is on my left side, and I can change it. I will go back here to more options, and not only January, but I want to add February. So I'll do row.feb and row.mar. This will give me the total for the sum of these three columns automatically, right?
So Guy, if we can just pause just for a moment, right? Because for me, this is an awful lot like Excel. One of the benefits I think everyone loves about Excel is the fact that you've got this really good way of referencing an individual cell in a sheet, yeah? A1, B2, C3. You can do A1 plus B2 plus C3, and you can do that really easily in Excel, right? It's very intuitive. I think what we're saying is we're using this special variable, we can do something very similar, right? So we can effectively recreate that Excel experience inside this form, yes?
Yeah, that's right. I can have totals that will be automatically calculated even before I save it. So I can come here in April, enter 1,000. This will be displayed here in my total. When I add April, because in this case I didn't, but so actually, since I have just three columns here, I will change March here for 1,000. And I didn't save the value yet, but I can see what.
Yeah, because in your total calculation, it's not adding up April, is it? You didn't put April in there as part of the formula. That's why it's not appearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I would have to do here is I would have to enter all the columns, right?
Yeah.
In this case, I only entered 3. And this will give us the total for everything. Now, I know this would take some time. We have this ready in the next sheet, but before we go to the next one, I want to show you how to create the approval field. So things that will lock certain editable fields with certain rules. This is also possible. As you saw, we can refer to the fields inside the object, and this approval is not different. I will now go, actually first, let me show you with the January column. Okay, so I will go to January, more options, scroll down, and in field options, you can see that we have this edit mode. So there's two ways we can change this edit mode. The first one is using the data model with Qlik expressions and Qlik rules. If I enter here an expression, and notice that it says 0 for read only. If I enter 0 here, the entire field will be blocked. So I won't be able to edit, me or any other user won't be able to enter values in here. Now, if I want to customize this with a certain rule, I can say, for example, if the country is equals to Brazil, give me 0, or which means block that specific field or those rows.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, give me 1. So I'll create here an expression if country is equals to Brazil, block everything. If not, 1, which means make everything editable. And here it is. Okay, so I'm using Qlik's data model to create this rule, and we can use that in our favor.
Nice.
Now, another way to do the same thing, but with the object itself, is by using the other little button that we have here. Scrolling down, see that we have edit expression type. We can toggle that on. And now we can refer to the fields inside our object. So I will create a separate field called approval. It will be a checkbox. And this is the name of the field, approval. I will bring it to the first position again, the same way I did it before. So just moving it up. Yeah, here it is. I can customize it and centralize the checkbox in the styling. We have more options to change the color and even make it visible for only certain users, which would be super useful in this case. But going back here,
so Guy, just on that point, so what you're saying is if some people were able to enter their particular number, so let's imagine using your data in the data model, right? We've got people that work in Australia, people who work in Brazil and France and USA. They have to come in here and populate their data. Now, what you can do is make it so that people in Australia can only fill in theirs and they could see the others, but they wouldn't be able to change them. You could even hide the other countries using section access if you wanted to, right? Because we honor Qlik section access rules. So you could hide those rows if you wanted to. But then you're saying that a user could come in that's like a super user or maybe in head office, and they would have the ability to see that approval column, because we could probably hide that column if we don't want to see it, unless you're a specific user. Then they would see that and click approve, and then it would lock those values down. And that's the way of setting your budget once it's all been approved, yeah?
That's right, yeah. So the sales team,
Nice.
we can let the sales team, for example, enter their values. And once the director is happy, he can come here. He will be the only one with access to this column, and he will say, okay, I don't want anyone to change these values, and he will approve everything.
I think that's a really important capability, because if you think about the way budget setting works in companies, you get to a point where it's set and it has to be locked down. And this is one of those ways. There are others, but this is one of the key ways of locking down those values. It's a really important point. So thanks, Guy. Good to know.
Yeah, and what this does, sorry, is that it will change the value of this field and toggle between 0 and 1. And we can use that in a rule. If I tick this box here, it will be the value is behind it is 1. If I tick it back, is 0. So I will use this in our favor to populate everything that we have, or just lock these fields with a rule. Now that I have this approval field, if I go to column order, I can see the reference. It is row.approval. So I can copy this formula reference, go back here to our January field. Let me go to the top, more options. And in field options, I have here the edit expression type, change it to the form field expression. And I will create a very similar expression to what I did before, using if. So if my row approval is equals to 1, which means that the box is ticked, I want this to be 0 because I want to lock that field. If not, I want it to be open, right? Now, this means that if I come here and I tick this box, oh, actually, I forgot one thing. Actually, I reverted. It's the opposite. I think. Let me check. Or I forgot to put it in single quotes. Demos are always like this.
This is the joy of being a developer, right? This is what happens when you develop. You debug the code.
You debug. Yeah. So I'm referring to our field that is in our object. If it's equals to 1, I will lock it. But I had to use here the single quotes, so it will understand. Now, if I tick the box, it will lock.
Now it's locking
that specific row. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're doing that just for the column of January at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. So to do that for all of them, I would have to go back here, copy from January to February, do the same thing, click here. This would take some time to do for all of them, but I want to show that it is possible to create a sort of approval workflow very easily.
Nice. Very nice.
Another important point that we didn't mention is that we also keep track of everything that happened in the past. So every change is saved as a separate row. If you need to go back in the past, you can also go back to and restore or just audit whatever happened before and see who changed what and when. And these are also fields that we have here available. If I go to the edit mode in the object and add the fields change it by and change date, it will show me exactly that. So in the very right, I will enter now change it by and change date. And since I only have records for the 3 first rows, it's showing me the name of the user and when it was last changed. If I enter some value here and click save, it will also populate that field.
Excellent. Guy, I'm conscious that some of the people watching this might be thinking, okay, so if I want to approve this, at the moment we've created a checkbox where we can approve an individual column or maybe all of our row. But if you wanted to do everything all at once, I guess you could create an action button that sits next to the clear, save and export buttons. It would appear there, as you did earlier. You can create a button and that would approve everything. And I think there's another way, right? If we have at the bottom of each one of these columns, we aren't showing it here, but you have something called a bulk update setting. You could change that and make that visible. And then you could put a checkbox at the bulk update setting and it will update, approve everything, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's right. In each one of these fields, we have the option to do a batch update. Let's say that in approval, just like you said, you want to do a batch edit.
Batch edit. Yeah, that's the word. Batch edit. Yeah.
I click here, and this little box will be displayed. I'll do the same for January, so we can see the same results. So going back here, and February. Okay, so just quickly turning this on for these specific columns. This means that if I click here and click on this button, it will lock everything because in this case, I checked all these columns at once.
Yeah.
Same thing for January. If I want to change the value to 500 in every row, I can do that without going one by one.
Yeah, nice. There's some really nice features that let you do big things quickly, isn't there? Which is quite cool.
Yes. And I think now we can show a little bit of what's possible. So as you can see, there are many possibilities, but there are many other use cases that are different from what we are showing here. But we created something like the art of the possible. Keep in mind that this is like super simple, just click logic with Infinity Forms. So thinking about creating the same thing. So let me just change again the instance of this object. Behind this object, I also have some measures, some click measures that are referring to January, February, March, and we can hide them. So let's say that we want to populate this in a way using last year's data. So what's last year's data? It's hidden behind it, but I can display like this as I scroll, as I slide this slider to the right. So I want to see the last 7 months of last year. So I can do that. I can see the 12 months. So this is everything from last year. Okay. And I'm just using Qlik rules here to hide and display the fields. So if I go to the right, I will see editable fields. If I go to the left or to the right, it will display or hide certain fields. Now, we also have an action button here on the top that will enable 2 extra columns. One to add a rate, and another one is an action button to change this rate. So let's say that I want to double everything that we had in last year. If I click here, it will show me exactly that amount. It will duplicate or apply this 100% to that value, and we can populate that. If I just want to run everything like this, copying everything from last year, I can do that individually. So this is possible. This is simple, nothing special. And just come here and save your results. Okay. Another thing that is possible is to do a batch copy, which will take this rate here, or if we want to just apply 100% for everything that we had last year, I can click here in this batch copy. It will duplicate everything, and we'll see the difference here. We had in last year we had like 298, and currently we have a total here for every column with a total of 596. We can change this rate, we can customize it to do whatever we want, but this is one example of what's possible that will facilitate and save you time centralizing everything inside one platform, which is Qlik and Inphinity.
So Guy, let's kind of put this in the context of a financial planner. So essentially what we're saying is it's very easy to give them access to last year's actuals, the actual numbers that were saved for their performance. We can bring those through. We can bring that through, I guess, for both revenue, but we can also bring it through from cost items. And we can do that just by using Qlik's connectors to connect to ERP systems, general ledger systems, or even spreadsheets. So we can pull that data into the data model. We can use that as a baseline for this year's budget. And then using this pre-fill capability, you could then say, okay, I want for this country to increase everything by 5%, but for that country, I want to increase everything by 10%. Or you could just say across the board, I want everything to be increased by 15%, whatever that might be, right? So you can do that. Obviously, it doesn't have to increase it. You could make it go down if you want to, right? But it's up to you. You get the ability to take those numbers from last year and then change them. And then you can then send it to people and say, this is head office's view of what we think. What does the region think? Let them come in, amend it, save it, and then, of course, apply your approval process and lock it down. Seems like a fantastic workflow to me.
That's right. And just keep in mind that these are actions that I created actually specifically for this demo, but you can create whatever you want. Let me quickly show what's behind this. So it's a button. If I go to actions, I have 3 different actions. One is pre-fill. Okay. If I go to configure actions, it will set a variable to hide or display these 2 columns that I have here. This is the first one. Yeah. So if I click here, it will hide these columns because it's changing the value of the variable. If I click again, it will bring them back.
So that button's doing nothing more than showing and hiding the columns.
That's right.
Excellent. And if I'm not mistaken, we simply hide the column by changing the column width to 0, right? It's as simple as that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Now the magic, let's say, behind populating the editable fields is in this other button that I can change the name. I can call it ABC or whatever I want. And this will change in here too. But I added these arrows, and then the actions here are related to the editable fields. So there's an action called set cell value. So we can set the value of the cell. We choose it from here. So the editable column is January. And then I can refer to a measure or anything that I want that is inside this object and do a calculation. So my expression here is, I'm referring to the measure January, the actual measure from last year, times 1 plus the rate. That's why we have that effect. We can just do that for every single month.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I click here, this action is triggered for that specific row. And that's why we see the results populating with the last year result, or in this case, using or not the rate that I have here. So if I increase this by 50%, I can click here and we'll see the results coming through.
Excellent. That is really cool. Now, I know we can also do this kind of thing in a different form that Infinity has, which we call Infinity Planning Pivot Table. That works as a pivot table. At the moment, we've been working on what we call is a straight table, right? And adding capability in. Some of this pre-exists actually in our planning pivot table, but we'll save that for another webinar. Just to let everyone know, come and join that webinar. We'll run something like that in the next few months as well, which will be amazing. So, Guy, is there anything else we think we need to show, or should we tell people? There's more. There's more.
There's so many things we could show, but I know that time is not infinite. So I'm going to show you one more thing that is very interesting. As you can see, we don't have the totals here on the top. There are two ways we can display the totals or the calculations. There are results from the inputs. One would be to load whatever we have here in the object. So just going back here. One would be to load whatever we input here in forms back into the data model.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is using SSE. SSE is the server-side extension, so we connect directly to the database, and we can pull the data from there. Mm. So that's what I'm going to do very quickly so you can see how easy it is. If I go here to form configuration, advanced settings, first I need to set a variable, create a variable. In this case, I'll just call it VSSE. And I need to create a connection to the instance that is like a different connection than the normal one. It's called Advanced Analytics. So I need to enter here in that instance and create an API token. So using this API token, I can come here to the SSE wizard, paste it. Our wizard will create this connection automatically. And then I can go back here in the object, in January, more options, and I have the totals function. Now, if I set this to sum, it will sum the values that we have here without any reload, without anything external. So whatever I change in this column, I will now enter 100 here, 100 here. The moment I click save, Qlik will do like a requery our table, and it will display the value here updated. This could be used in a KPI, in another object. So it's another way to prevent the user from reloading the app all the time, which it's not really a problem because Qlik has a great performance. Our product doesn't affect at all anything like that. But sometimes you have an app that will take a little bit more time to reload. So this is one way. Another way would be to use partial reload. So there are many possibilities. This is just a nice thing to show because people probably would be like, well, where are the totals? So the totals could be displayed in two ways. Okay.
So Guy, I think just to put this in the context again of financial planners, I think one of the things I've learned over the years is that when you're building a budget, it's a very iterative process, right? You go through, you try something, you think, that's not quite right. You try something else, you do different assumptions, you play with the numbers a lot, right? This gives you the ability to do that kind of scenario planning and then instantly see the calculation, certainly at the column there. But just as you just said, you could also have a KPI or even a bar chart or a line chart combined with this form. And so what you'll do is enter the data in here. And the moment you hit save, you can power your KPI or your bar chart with the SSE variable. And when you do that, you'll instantly see your bar charts and your KPIs change as you enter data in here as well, right? And we've got other demos that can show that, of course, but that's a very powerful capability to let people do scenarios, or sometimes known as what if analysis, yeah, which lets people do those kinds of testing before they go and lock it down as the approved final budget. That's really, really cool. Really cool. Excellent. I am conscious of the time. We could keep going. I know we could. There's so many things we could show. But what we'll do is we'll take some of those, package them up, and we'll run some more webinars just like this one to show people how to build other things. So, Guy, I'm going to say thank you hugely for your effort of putting it into this. It's been brilliant. Really well done. There
Thank
is
you.
now going to be time for a Q&A. So, guys, if you have any questions, please put them into the LinkedIn chat window, and you can then raise questions with us. We'll be here to be able to answer those. So, Guy, thank you for that, and we'll speak again very soon. Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.